guys, what is up? This is Ben from Run Slow to Run Fast. Today I am going to do a recap of my race, my first ultramarathon, which was the Black Canyon Ultra's 60K. Really great race, super excited about it. It was a super fun experience. Can't say enough good things about it. So just to start you off on how the race started for us, I live here in Utah and drove down to Phoenix. First got there, went to the race expo the day before, got all registered and checked out some of the vendors there. Met a friend who was doing the 100K there. His name is Patrick. You'll see him in some of my footage on the video today. He and I met up and went to the hotel and kind of got situated for the race the next day. So woke up in the morning, went to Mare, Arizona, where the race starts. And he's doing the 100K. The 100K start at 7 a.m. So saw him off, got him all situated and gone. It was pretty cool because the 100K is a golden ticket race. So you have a few elites that were showing up there. Saw Hayden Hawks, who eventually won the race. I believe his finish time was 7:55. So really fast time from him. Great race on Hayden's part. And then Patrick, my friend, took off in that group as well. The race starts with a loop around the track there at Mare High School and then continues on. You do about a mile or two through town and then you connect to the Black Canyon Trail. And it goes, for the 100K, it goes all the way down to Anthem, Arizona. For the 60K, which I did, it goes to Black Canyon City, which is where the finish is. So my race started at 9 a.m. Got off to a really good start. Race felt really good. Was holding the pace that I wanted to. I had in my mind a goal time that I wanted to finish, and looking back on it now, I think I was a little lofty in that goal. But being my first ultramarathon, I wasn't tied to that goal a lot. Really what I wanted to do was just make sure that I finished. I, set the goals for myself to complete the race and, wanted to learn a lot about ultra running and certainly did that. So race got off to a good start. The course is definitely deceiving because for the 100K, it's 5,000 feet of elevation gain and 10,000 feet of descent. With the 60K, it's half that. So 2,500 feet of gain, 5,000 feet of descent. So you might think that it's going to be a really fast course. For me, and I know in talking to a lot of other people, it was deceiving because it wasn't as fast as we expected that it would be. The reason that it's not as fast is because there are some technical parts to it, but the course is really windy and there's a lot of kind of undulation in the trail. So you're basically running in and out of washes most of the race, which makes it really difficult to find a momentum. And there are a few steep parts in the race as well. So for me, race started off really well, got to about the 6 or 7 mile mark and started dealing with some issues that I've never really had. Never had them in any of my marathons or half marathons before, have never had them, in any of my training runs. But I started to get some stomach issues where stomach was cramping up and just feeling queasy and it was slowing me down quite a bit. I was running, from mile 6 to the halfway point where one of the major aid stations was, which is mile 19. I felt like I just couldn't get into a rhythm. I couldn't get anything going. I would run for a half a mile and then walk a bit until I felt like running again. And so I got to that halfway point, which was Bumblebee Ranch, where my parents were waiting to help crew. And it was not feeling good. I'd gotten there a lot slower than I had hoped and anticipated, and I was starting to get really hot as well. The race wasn't hot by some standards as far as temperature goes. When it started in the morning, it was fairly cool, but by the time I had gotten there, which was a little after noon, it was 65 degrees and I was overheating quite a bit. I had taken a buff with me and a buff, to cover your neck and your face. Was hoping to utilize that mainly for protection from the sun. And I think that's part of what was overheating me, but was fairly hot during the day. So got there to mile 19 and was super fortunate because my dad had struck up a conversation with Ben Light, who is an ultra runner, and he mainly does really long distances. He mainly does a lot of those 100, 200, and even longer races. And so he was a great person to crew for me. So he helped me with a lot of things, helping me understand what my nutrition should be, helping me with one of the blisters on my feet that we were able to get patched up pretty well. And then one of the things that he said is, try to take in salt, some type of salt supplement every hour or so. And so that's not something that I had done, before in any of my training runs or any of my marathons. And one of my marathons, took me 6.5 hours because it was a very technical trail marathon. So even during that race, I didn't have any trouble with salt intake or things like that. Didn't have any stomach issues arising there. So it was a fairly new experience for me. So started doing that from that point on, from mile 19 on. And within a few miles, I started to feel kind of a new energy, and that stomach cramping went away, and I started charging forward. And the second half of the race, at least in my mind, is broken up into two pieces. So the first 19 miles is where most of the descent comes from. You do gain a little bit of elevation, but most of that descent comes in the second half of the race. And so I was expecting that the first half of the race would be pretty quick and the second half would be a bit slower. But I was actually able to run more of the second half of the race than the first, because we were able to get my nutrition and all of that fueling dialed in. And so that went really well. I was really pleased with the second half of the race and ran pretty much the entire second half of the race, even though that's where most of the climbing takes place. It's not a ton, over 18 miles or so, you gain about 2,000 feet of elevation. But again, even on the uphills, I felt strong and was able to run through those, and was taking in those salt tabs periodically, and basically grabbing what I could food-wise at the aid stations, walking a bit and eating. And then as soon as I was done eating, I would start running again. So I felt really, really good, really strong in the second half of the race. So much so that, the last mile or so of the course, there's a really steep kind of switchback climb, and I was able to run that entire portion. So really happy, really felt great about that part of the race, that I felt so strong with that amount of miles on my legs. So a great learning experience for me. I actually got to the finish line and felt like I could continue on and keep going at that pace. So really, really happy with that portion. It was great to get to the finish line with, my parents were there, my sister and her family had come. So it was a really neat and special event to be able to share that moment with them. At the conclusion of my race, I was able to take my car and then drive down to Anthem, Arizona, which is where the 100K finish is. And so got there shortly after dark and was awaiting my friend who was doing the 100K there, Patrick. Again, you'll see him in some of the footage. And super cool experience there. It was, just what you would hope that a trail race would be. The Black Canyon race is one of the larger 100Ks in the nation. At least from what I've been hearing, it's actually the largest 100K race in the nation. But there was maybe 50 to 75 people there still waiting at the finish line of the 100K. And there were some of the local elites there. So Arizona is where a lot of the elite ultra runners live, mostly in the Flagstaff area. And two of the guys that we saw there were Jim Walmsley and Tim Frericks. So they were both there kind of hanging out, and they had a cooler of adult beverages that they were actually handing out to people and going around and just saying hi and talking to people. So I'll share a photo that I got with them, but I was able to talk to Jim Walmsley for a second, talk about some of his goals for the upcoming year. So really neat experience. And, those two guys were, even nicer than you would imagine that they would be. So it was really cool to be able to see that and, interact with some of my running idols. I already mentioned Hayden Hawks. I was winning the race, saw him for a second as he was getting off the bus for the 100K. So he was done with his day and heading out, but also saw some other people. Corey Waltering was there at the 100K finish. I watched Rob Steger from Training for Ultra, watched him finish the race. And then within a couple of hours, my friend Patrick had finished. So waited for him a little ways up the trail and ran it home with him. So that was a really cool experience. But overall, I feel like I learned a ton from the race. I'm really excited to take on more and bigger races. And I felt like I discovered and learned a lot about myself in doing that ultra marathon. So I'm excited to sign up for more. One of the next races that I have on my radar is a 40-mile race in Colorado called the Grand Traverse, which goes from Crested Butte, Colorado to Aspen, Colorado. So it goes over the Elk Mountains. That one is a little bit more, it's a little bit of a different race. It's very mountainous. So you start at about 9,000 feet, you go up over 12,000 feet, and the race in total has about 6,000 feet of elevation change. So I'm excited for the summer to be able to train here in Utah in the mountains. I'm very fortunate to live here now that I can go up into the mountains and train at higher elevation, 8,000 to 9,000 feet, very, very easily. I live about 30 minutes from the mountains where I can do that. So very fortunate to be able to do that, and that will help me in my training for that race. Additionally, one of the things that I want to accomplish in the spring here is to set a half marathon PR, just to work on my leg speed a little bit. I've certainly got the base built up to be able to do that. So it's just kind of changing my training a little bit over the next couple of months to be able to do so. And then once I'm finished with that, the snow should be melted here, and I'll be able to get more into the mountains and start some of that bigger ultra training that I'm looking at doing. So hope you guys enjoy the video. I've kind of split up this video a little bit. There's some photos and some footage that I took during the race. So hope you enjoy it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy these types of videos, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks. All right, guys, what's up? It is 5:15. We are ready to go for the Black Canyon. 100K for Patrick and 60K for me. I'm just heading to the start line in Mare, Arizona at the high school. Should be a good day. Weather's nice. It's about 30 degrees in Mare right now. But it should warm up. It should be, I think the high is supposed to be 65 or something like that. So woo! Excited to get going.
Then you can go ahead and shuffle out to the track. We're going to start on the track. We're going to do this wonderful loop together around the track. And then I'm going to kick you guys out of here so you can enjoy the glorious desert that is Arizona. We've got about 15 minutes. It does take a little bit.
Just been chilling for a few hours.